Pixar has always been somewhat special to me, but it only truly had a significant impact on me recently. As I mentioned in my last video, I decided to watch every Pixar film that I hadn't seen before, as well as ones that I saw when I was a lot younger but forgot a lot about. The amazing thing about Pixar is that it understands that the stories that resonate with people are the ones that appeal to some core truth about being alive, regardless of whether those stories are seen through the eyes of monsters, clownfish, toys, or tiny little ants. It's that deep emotional core, often based on real life, present in these movies that allows them to tackle such complex and adult concepts, such as loss, sadness, and compassion. I think the fact that anyone at any age can enjoy pretty much all of these films is what makes Pixar stand out so much, and it's one of the reasons I'm such a big fan of it. So today, I decided to rank every single Pixar film from worst to best. It's not the right list, it's just my list. Try to be positive about this in the comments. Let's get into this. Number 22, Cars 2. Now, universally, I think everyone knows that most people would agree that this is the movie that would be at the bottom of their list, and I couldn't agree more. I would say this is the only Pixar movie I consider to be a bad film. I mean, being about cars, it's a spy movie somehow, and they focus on Mater while also trying to get us invested in a race Lightning McQueen is taking a part in. Yeah, this was just a mess, and it didn't work for me at all. Number 21, The Good Dinosaur. Now, fortunately, every movie on the rest of this list is good to just fantastic. The Good Dinosaur is a pretty good time. I was invested in the characters, and while it was a pretty simplistic and standard storyline, it did hit me by the end in the way it was supposed to. Number 20, Brave. This is another perfectly enjoyable movie. I was invested in the character of Merida, and her eventual strong bond with her family was really touching to watch. It's nothing great, but it has a good message, and the pacing flows really well. Number 19, Cars. I think this franchise gets more hate than it deserves. I mean, sure, it's probably the weakest franchise, and I really don't like Cars 2, but this film and the third one are really fun movies in my opinion. The original Cars film has a lot to offer, and all the characters are very likable. Yes, I even like Mater. Just my opinion, but moving on. Oh, I'm gonna get hate for this. Number 18, Cars 3. Now, I am one of the few people, maybe the only one in the entire world who thinks that Cars 3 is the best out of the three films. It's very underrated in my opinion, and I don't really understand why it gets so much hate. I thought it was thoroughly entertaining all the way through, and I loved the introduction of Cruise as a character. And in my opinion, it's the perfect conclusion to Lightning McQueen's storyline when I look back at the standards set by the first film. Number 17, Toy Story 4. This was a movie I think most people didn't want to come out. Obviously, they can't make a good sequel to Toy Story 3 after it supposedly ended it so well, right? Right? Wrong. Toy Story 4 does its job well of proving that it is a necessary story to tell. It was awesome to see these characters back again in another movie, and the new characters they introduced were extremely funny and enhanced the experience even more. Although, by the end, even though I had a great time, I couldn't help but feel like there was something missing from this film that the previous three movies gave me, but I just couldn't put my finger on what it was. Number 16, Monsters University. I pretty much love this movie for the same reasons I love Toy Story 4. By the end of it, it feels like it was truly necessary to set up what came to be in Monsters, Inc. And I just think the idea of this taking place before the events of Monsters, Inc. is an excellent idea. And I didn't realize how much I actually would want to see that until I watched it. Number 15, shut up, it's a dead meme. Number 15, Incredibles 2. People have been waiting for this sequel forever. After they continued to make sequels for franchises people didn't want sequels for, everyone was just like, bruh, just make Incredibles 2. It finally happened, and in my opinion, it lived up to the high expectations. This was a really good sequel with another really good villain, and I thought that even though the first one was better paced, this film had better action, and I also laughed quite a bit more. Also, of course, the amazing musical score is back once again. Number 14, Toy Story 2. A really good sequel to the first one with great new characters. It's suspenseful, it's entertaining, and it just does what sequels are supposed to do. Number 13, Coco. Now, before I watched this movie, I knew I would like it, but I really wasn't prepared to love it as much as I did. Coco is jam-packed with creativity, and like most Pixar films, I did tear up by the end. Number 12, Onward. I just reviewed this movie in my last video, and like I said, I love when Pixar tells a new original tale like Coco, or in this case, Onward. I had a blast with this movie from start to finish, and Chris Pratt and Tom Holland had amazing chemistry. I could not be more satisfied with this film's message, and it is immensely rewatchable. I think this is severely underrated. Number 11, Finding Dory. This film could have easily sucked. There are almost too many ways that having Dory as the lead could get super repetitive. But somehow these genius filmmakers made an extremely heartwarming movie that never once had a dull moment. Ellen DeGeneres gives a fantastic voice acting performance as Dory. Number 10, The Incredibles. I'm sorry, Matthew, this is one of my best friends' favorite movie of all time, so I'm probably going to get some hate from him for putting this lower than he would want it to be. But the truth is, it's in the top 10. The Incredibles is an amazing movie, and an amazing and creative superhero movie as well. All the characters in this movie are iconic now, and they're all super likable. It just misses the mark in my opinion from being a masterpiece, but it's really damn close. Number 9, A Bug's Life. The fact that this movie is so good really saddens me, because it isn't talked about enough. A Bug's Life has kind of been glossed over by other franchises like Toy Story and The Incredibles. In fact, it came out in between two Toy Story movies. If you haven't seen it, check it out, because it really is worth your time. The fact that I got so invested in the life of an ant is really something special, and it also has a really great villain. Number 8, Toy Story. The original Toy Story and the first Pixar film still holds up as one of the best. This was the birth of Pixar and introduced a lot, whether we're discussing the mature themes and compelling story as a whole, or little things like the chemistry between Woody and Buzz. This franchise has done a lot for animated films. Number 7, Up. This was the Pixar movie that I cried in the most, and I think a lot of other people would agree with me on that. And sure, everyone talks about how amazing that opening scene is, which I do agree with, but what really got to me in this movie was the message. In my opinion, it might be the most impactful message out of all of the Pixar films. The idea that we should hold on to positive aspects about our past while also welcoming in the new and accepting everything that comes along in our life with a positive mindset is so powerful. God, I love Up. Number 6, Ratatouille. This was a blast from start to finish. It was one of the Pixar movies I watched recently, and I really wish I watched it a long time ago when I was younger. I forgot I was watching a movie while I was watching this because it flowed so well. And one of the reasons I loved it so much was that the story itself was pretty unpredictable. A lot of the time I thought it would go in a cliched route. It surprised me and went in a different direction. And I don't necessarily have too much of a problem with cliches if they're done well, but being constantly surprised was really refreshing in this movie and caused me to just have a roller coaster of emotions all the way through. Number 5, WALL-E. Now, I watched this movie a couple months ago, and at that time I had a lesser opinion of it. I didn't really understand why people thought the movie was so great, but I'm really glad I decided to watch it again recently, because my opinion completely changed. This movie is magical, from the fascinating visuals to the amazing story being told through those visuals. When it was getting close to the end, I didn't want it to end. Number 4, Monsters, Inc. In terms of creativity with Pixar, this is pretty much the height of it. This is one of the most rewatchable and emotionally resonant Pixar films in my opinion. I love how quickly you get invested into the chemistry between Mike and Sully, and the character of Boo adds even more weight that hits you in the feels by the end. We're here, top 3. If you've made it this far, thank you. Number 3, Finding Nemo. Now, if you've seen this, there's a high probability you know how good it is. But what I found extremely hard to comprehend was how everything in this movie ties together so well. There was not one scene that felt out of place. Finding Nemo is truly a masterwork. Number 2, Toy Story 3. As I said, Toy Story 4 did justify its existence as a great sequel to this. But to me, even if it didn't exist, Toy Story 3 would have still been a perfect conclusion to this franchise. It's an amazing culmination of all the events that had taken place in this universe beforehand, and it left me feeling endless amounts of joy. Number 1. My favorite Pixar movie. The one that I can rewatch endlessly and never get tired of. The one that plays with all of my emotions. The movie about emotions, Inside Out. Inside Out is not only my favorite Pixar film, but it's up there as one of my favorite films of all time. We get to see how joy, sadness, anger, disgust, and fear all interact as actual characters inside the main character Riley's brain controlling her. This is a very mature concept that really works, and it's a good way to teach kids about the real world. It's extremely entertaining, funny, emotional, and all around very well made. If there's one thing Pixar is amazing at, it's original ideas like Inside Out. Thank you to whoever watches. I appreciate the support, and peace out.